Normally, I open the show with the Big Three. We talk for a minute about the big three top topics. We're going to postpone that a bit because Senator Lee of the state of Utah was kind enough to literally carve a few minutes out of a very busy schedule. He has a speaking appointment in just a matter of minutes. But he agreed to join us for a few seconds here on the program today to talk about what's unfolding in Iraq. And Senator Lee, thank you for making your time available. What is your take on what is unfolding? We're hearing fighting in the streets, bombings in Baghdad, an oil refinery that is or is not, back and forth. Whose control is it in? Dealing with the Iranians. Just your general take, maybe to set the stage for our brief conversation.
Well, this is a tragic situation, Doug. There's no doubt about it, and it's one that deserves close attention by the White House and by Congress. Our highest priority has to concern the protection of the American people, including perhaps most immediately the American people who are in the region right now. And we've got to be working with other countries in the area to assess effective measures that can help us preserve our specific security interests relative to the American people generally and those in the region. But this has resulted from a breakdown of the system over there, of the fact that despite what America had identified as our interest over there, and despite what U.S. military advisors had been insisting on in Iraq, the Iraqis failed to achieve a government that was representative of its people. And regrettably, Iraq's government, including Iraq's security forces, fell into this sectarian war, fell into this sectarian trap. And that's what has brought about all of this, all of these horrible circumstances over there that are subjecting so many to such horror.
Many of us recall a conversation at the end of the real hot part of the war in Iraq, when the debate was, as a government was going to be set up, whether the country should be sectionalized, whether we should have the Kurds in one area in control, Sunnis in one area in control, and the Shiites in another area in control. That ultimately was not the plan that prevailed. And now we're still back to that square where people are fleeing to, quote-unquote, the relatively safe Kurdish north. The Sunnis are absolutely targeting the Shiites. Now Iran, because they have sympathy with the Shia, they now are talking about siding with them. And Iran seems to be such a wild card. Who in the world ever thought that there would be discussion, although today the Obama administration has indicated no, they are not going to deal with Iran and partner with Iran on solutions here. But good grief, this is a scenario that was almost unthinkable just weeks ago.
Yeah, that's right. It was, at least to most of us who don't have access to classified intelligence on the ground out there. And you're right. A few years ago, people, many of them suggested that perhaps there ought to be a two-state or a three-state solution, which in the abstract sounds like a great idea and perhaps would be if you could achieve it. But it's very difficult to achieve in practice, and as things turned out, it didn't work out that way, and that's why we're now facing what we're facing.
I become increasingly alarmed, too, at what our role should be, could be, ought. I mean, pick your term here. And all kinds of things have been discussed. The president has said that everything is on the table, save only, quote-unquote, boots on the ground. Now, we do have boots on the ground, but they're specialized forces designed to protect life and limb of Americans and property of this nation, especially in the Green Zone and the embassy. But at the same time, everything else theoretically is on the table, and now the Iraqis are, if not asking for, begging for airstrikes. Is that going to happen, in your opinion?
It's hard to say at this point. And, you know, the president has got to develop a plan to protect our specific national security interests. But in the meantime, many of us here in Congress are very concerned about us getting involved in a sectarian war there. And this is backed up by what General David Petraeus said just yesterday about the fact that there is a real risk if the United States gets involved. This cannot, as he explained, become a situation in which the United States is becoming the Air Force for the Shia militias in a situation where you've got a Shia on Sunni Arab fight. We can't allow that to happen. Another thing that we're worried about is the idea that if we provide additional equipment or weaponry, any of that weaponry or equipment could end up being captured by ISIS or obtained by other bad actors in the region and end up being used against us or against our allies, and that's a problem too.
Many Americans are very concerned, and this could so easily slip into a woulda, shoulda, coulda, and it's hard not to do that. But Speaker Boehner right now is just saying, Mr. Obama, where is your broader strategy? What's the game plan? What's the exit plan? Basically, what's the plan here before we really move forward? And Speaker Boehner has sidestepped ultimately whether or not he would support the airstrikes, but I think that's in the void of what's the overall plan.
That's right, and you're also correct in pointing out that this will be a situation where there will be a lot of coulda, shoulda, woulda, second guessing going on. Right now, I think the focus needs to be on protecting American interests, particularly those Americans that are still there. We've had about 5,000 Americans in the embassy. We have reduced that number now to about 2,500. And the president just informed us that he'll be sending over 275 specialized armed personnel who will go in there and help assist with the evacuation. That's got to be our primary focus right now, is making sure that Americans who are there are protected and evacuated safely. And beyond that, this involves a very difficult set of determinations, and any decision that is made here is fraught with a lot of peril. Mm-hmm. So I don't envy the president or the position that he's in, and my thoughts and prayers are with him and those who are advising him right now.
And boy, why would this great nation of ours be at all concerned about an embassy after what we experienced in Tehran so many years ago and what we so recently experienced in Benghazi? And you're absolutely right. That is the first and foremost thing, the men and the women who are serving us over there in whatever capacity. And I've heard, Senator, that that's the largest embassy in the world.
It is. It's the largest embassy in the world. It's the most expensive embassy compound in the world. And we put a lot of resources into there because we really wanted this mission there to succeed. We wanted Iraq to become a stronghold for democracy, for secular government, for the kind of government that would look out for the interests of minority populations in the country. And it has turned out quite the opposite. And so that's why he's undertaking this evacuation process, and that's why we have reason to be very concerned about those who are still there.
Senator, I so appreciate your time. I promised your folks I'd have you out of here by 14, and I think we've got 20 seconds to spare. But I thank you for your time, and we'll be calling again soon.
Thanks so much, Doug. Take care.
Senator Mike Lee with us here at KSL News Radio.